boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are live and back at it again, folks. Welcome to the Wrestling for Life Network. This is our WWE NXT Vengeance Day and AEW Grand Slam Australia preview and prediction show. Lots to talk about, lots to get into, lots of wrestling news, lots going on with both these cards. Me and these two pretty faces are going to let you know what we think of the shows, and we're going to talk all about it here tonight, folks. Get in that chat, click all the buttons, strap in, strap on, grab your snacks, grab your feel good, and let's go. Ding, ding, ding. We are live and back at it again, folks. Like I said, we are the Wrestling for Life Network. This is our preview and predictions for two shows that we will be here for on Saturday. It's going to be a fun one, but we wanted to talk about it. Let's see what you guys are seeing, thinking, feeling about these shows. It's going to be very interesting. Vengeance Day being hyped up, Grand Slam being a little bit more chaotic and uncertain, but we're going to talk about all the matches, all the storylines, plus a little bit of wrestling news here tonight. But like I said, me and these guys got you for the next little while. We thank you for being here. Don't forget, I see some Twitchers over there. We are on Twitch. Go join us over there. But without further ado, I am Mr. Every Night KJ White, the Iron Man of YouTube. That is Ringsider Anthony. That is Big Nick.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Wrestling for Life Network proudly brings to you its tag stream trios, champions of the world, Sweet Tony Rings, Ringsider Anthony, the Every Night Delight, KJ White, and I am Big Nick. And my guys, are you more excited for the show with A-Town Down Under or the show in A-Town Down Under?
Right, good question.
Yeah, that's a real good question. I don't know. I saw the matchups for Grand Slam, and I'm kind of excited, but then again, it's not live, and that's kind of the thing that's holding me back a little bit with saying Grand Slam over Vengeance Day.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean,
2:30 in the morning watching live. Sorry.
Right. It's going to be a fun one as far as, I mean, both cards are stacked in their own ways. Lots of intrigue, lots of story, a lot of angles. We got new faces popping up. And again, I mean, Grand Slam was meant to be something grand, and now it just feels a bit like a slam. So we will see. Right. So yeah, I mean, again, very intriguing for both these shows. Again, I think there's a lot of potential for both. I mean, the card on both is pretty outstanding.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like as much as Grand Slam's Collision, which is now followed by Ring of Honor for some reason. Thank you, Chris. Like you said before we went live, he gets the free flight. But even though it is a Collision, Grand Slam does still have a pretty solid card. Like Buddy Murphy versus Okada is a sneaky sleeper to me.
Buddy Murphy and Okada should bang. The tag match with Will Ospreay and Fletcher and Kenny and Takeshita should actually possibly be a match of the year candidate. Yeah, man. I mean, literally, there's a lot of possibilities here. Can A-Town Down work together to try and get the belt off Oba? Highly unlikely, but we will talk about a fatal four-way for the women's title. Yeah, I mean, again, a lot going on both these cards. So, yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to Grand Slam, I think you mentioned it, the tag team match with Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega versus the Don Callis family. I think that's a potential match of the year candidate. And so when I was watching Dynamite this past Wednesday and that match popped up, I'm like, okay, I really kind of want to see that one. And then even with Harley Cameron versus Mercedes Moné, and I know we'll get to that, but I would love for Harley to take the crown at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, lots going on. We're going to dive into it, folks. Don't be quiet. Don't be shy. We will throw some polls up to the fans out there. You guys can let us know what you're thinking. Give us your 2 cents. And again, it's been a heavy news week. Lots going on in the wrestling world. But we'll guide you through what we will be here for at 5:30 p.m. So I will repeat, live Saturday, 5:30 p.m. We will be here and ready to go nice and early. The show starts at 6, and we might have an early bedtime depending on how everything works out. But yeah, I mean, a very interesting Saturday. And yeah, Vengeance Day is hyped up and ready to go. How you guys feeling about this? Ready?
Oh, 100% with what we just saw on the Go Home show earlier this week on Tuesday. I gave that show a 10 out of 10. I said that you can't deny that that was a 10 out of 10 show. You had the Ricky Starks show up, and apparently, allegedly, he's going to actually be able to keep his name and everything. And then you end it too with the Mass Bandits and everything like that. Did it come off a little retribution-y though? A little retribution-y with all the mass and everything.
I didn't think so. I gave me little Eric Young vibes.
Fair enough. Little sanity, little maybe Sierra Hotel Shield vibes.
Definitely some Shieldy vibes for sure. Izix in the house, Kevin, Mega. We're not going to run through everybody, but Jordan, Ken. Hello, Haseen, AJ. Good to see ya. Good to see ya. Geekbox, Wrestling for Life boys in the house. Hope y'all are good. Also, thank you for my message, Sneaky. Well, I mean, again, we might let the cat out of the bag here, but Geekbox is turning one more year older very soon. So big happy birthday to Geekbox, and glad we could be a part of that. So happy birthday, Geekbox.
Absolutely. Blame the missus for reaching out. So blame her. We just were part of the plan. We didn't start the plan.
It's all Mrs. Box. It was up to her. She did it.
Right.
Guilty. I vote Javon. All right. So the first one up on the docket for tonight that we can throw to the chat and throw to you two. Who wins, Javon or Ethan Page?
Oh, this to me is a bit interesting because Ethan's been solid in all of this. He's former NXT champion. We think he's closer to going to the main roster, so maybe he takes the L. This feels really close to me, and I like the Javon, the mini man with the through the wire gimmick and everything. And did anyone else notice that Progressive sponsored the segment to where they showed Ethan Page beating up Javon on NXT this past Tuesday? The insurance company out there sponsoring, with your wires shut and everything. But Javon, if I'm just going with it here, still young, still going to be in NXT for a minute. Maybe Ethan takes the L and moves up, or he gets a buddy from TNA with a bald head and wrestling gear, shows up.
Man, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might take Ethan Page. Thinking of the aspect that Josh Alexander could show up. His contract is done, I think actually Saturday. He's a free agent Saturday. So it would be nice to see him potentially at Vengeance Day to help his friend win this match. Javon still has he's like 19, right? So he can take a loss at this point if he wanted to, but I really like the idea of Ethan Page potentially going over on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Anthony on this one. I think Ethan Page has been on a bit of a cold streak. Coming out of Deadline, he was dejected, he was upset, he was disappointed. Javon's got a lot of runway ahead of him. I mean, it feels like the good guy needs the win here, but I just feel like Ethan Page is on the upper tier. I'm leaning towards Ethan Page for this one.
Fair enough. I mean, I think the story going into this has actually been really solid. I've really enjoyed it and all of that. And I really find it interesting that Anthony brought up that Josh is a free agent on Saturday. We saw 24 hours, return from free agent to sign to WWE. Can we get lower? Can we do 12, 6, 5? What do I hear now? So could he be free agent that same day and show up in NXT that next day, that same day?
Yeah, I think we're pretty confident. And I mean, Ricky Starks showed us that clearly conversations be happening and things be kind of rolling before they maybe should be rolling. But I think Jordan knew where she was going the minute her contract expired. I think Josh has a pretty good idea. Clearly, Ricky Starks did. And now we wait to see Sheamus petitioning for Miro and Malachi Black. We're all cheering for.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would definitely like to see Josh Alexander in WWE. I mean, I really thought he had a clear-cut decision until he came out in an interview and was like, if he re-signed, he wanted to win the TNA World Championship. And I'm like, Josh, be quiet. Go somewhere else. You did your time in TNA.
Yeah, you've kind of put it into that limit. I think part of it is, I mean, I think you still want to show some brand loyalty to, especially when you were such a heart and soul guy. So
Yeah.
just to be like deuces, it's a bit rough. But also, I think if I was negotiating a contract, I'd want to make everybody think that everybody wanted me as much as possible, right? So
Right.
I could go back, but I don't know how much the WWE is going to fall for that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You inflate your value, but is it with the brand loyalty thing? Is it a bit easier now if you've already got the WWE TNA deal kind of in place? If you're not exactly fully walking away per se, you can still pay it off a little bit on the back end because now it's a working relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be a little bit more easier choice with him if he wanted to stick go to WWE. He still has that option to appear in TNA. And I always say, now that Jordan Grace is there and you got AJ Styles, if they do interactions with the main roster, like if they did like a NXT TNA type pay-per-view, right, where it's TNA versus WWE, you have that, thing where is you were here for so long. Are you going to choose WWE? Are you going to be on the side of WWE? Or are you going to be on the side of TNA, where you kind of made a name for yourself? So I would like to see something like that if they had like an NXT WWE type pay-per-view. I mean, TNA type pay-per-view.
Yeah, coming soon.
Right.
But that being said, the chat's going 56% for Javon. Slight edge to Javon on this one. And again, the young kid could could have a career win. Nick could be onto something about Ethan maybe being closer to the next step. I don't know, but yeah, the chat thinks Javon.
Well, and I do, like I said, I do really like this story itself because you've got Ethan, that it's something that Ethan still feels relevant, still feels in a decent story that's not around the title. And it's something that Javon, it kind of still keeps him a bit elevated as well.
True.
Yeah.
True. A very interesting match coming up on Saturday. Trick Williams, Eddie Thorpe, going to be in a strap match. Not really what we expected, but hey, man, they got here quick, and here we go. So, how do you feel about this one?
The elevation of Eddie Thorpe is fantastic. He's been a breakout guy on NXT. I feel I trick Ava into giving me a title shot. Now I'm still, worked into a top storyline with the former world champion who should be going at the current champion. But no, he's going to get through me after I just had my title match. I like this match. The strap match stipulation's interesting. He who goes over on the go home show loses at the pay-per-view. Trick wins this one.
Yeah, I think the strap match is an interesting take here. I'm gonna be honest here and say I really don't care for this match. I don't really like Trick Williams or Eddie Thorpe, to be honest. That's just me. If I'm gonna take anyone here, it would probably be Trick Williams. I think he is potentially heading up to the main roster soon. But I think Trick Williams takes this hands down.
I don't know. I think part of me is leaning towards Eddie. Trick's already been in the title picture. Trick's been there. Eddie's got worked his way into a title shot, but nothing really overly serious. I don't know what's next for Oba. They had to bring down 2 main roster talent just to make us believe that he could lose. I'm gonna go Eddie. I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna go Eddie.
Does Eddie win and challenge Oba, or does Eddie win and he's Ricky's first opponent?
Eddie Ricky would be interesting. Yeah.
Because that's what I'm wondering is like the person that wins this, I feel like if Trick wins, he goes after Oba like he kind of should have instead of getting the A-Town Down Under nonsense. But if Eddie wins, I don't know if you put heel versus heel going at Oba. So maybe he ends up being Ricky's kind of first opponent. Because who's Ricky going to start off
heel
with?
versus heel with Eddie and Oba?
Technically, Oba's supposed to be a heel.
He's
even
nowhere
though
near a heel.
I know he's not, but
Not even close. So yeah, that even almost helps my argument that I hadn't even thought of. But yeah, Trick going back after Oba, I don't know if it fits. So I'm kind of leaning Eddie.
Fair enough.
I mean, 78% of the chat, 89% of the chat think it's going to be Trick Williams. So
yeah,
they're leaning heavy. Trick, I think, has the bigger name. I just don't know what the plans are for Trick as we move towards Stand and Deliver. So interesting times.
Does he challenge Oba before Stand and Deliver? Like I mentioned the challenge back at Oba because he lost about to Oba.
True.
So that would be the only thing. It's the same thing like with Tiffany and Nia. I don't expect Nia's going to take the belt off of Tiffany, but I feel like we at least need to get through that story that's blatantly obvious before we move on to other shit.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just trying to in my head, like Oba Trick Williams Stand and Deliver. Is that a good enough main event?
That's why I agree with you. If that happens, I don't want that at Stand and Deliver. Like
okay,
that
fair.
needs to be like I would almost could you potentially get to quick enough of a Ricky Starks versus Oba Femi Stand and Deliver?
Yeah. The way Ricky is over, I think you can build that up real quick. You can and head that into Stand and Deliver. And I feel like that's a main event worthy match to have on the biggest, weekend of the year for wrestling.
Absolutely.
Trick wins, then Mike Santana shows up. Oh, where did that come from, Floyd?
Right.
Well,
as much as I'd love it.
That's the thing, though. I think with Ricky starts showing up now, because it was so fast and so out of the blue, it was reminiscent to the Scott Hall moment a bit of that. Now, like we're almost anticipating, all right, so is Malachi Black going to show up on SmackDown? Does he show up on Vengeance Day? Does Miro all of a sudden show up on a random SmackDown, something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have no idea. That's what's been really cool about all of this is it seems like a long list of moving parts and a long list of, hey, we didn't see that coming.
Right. And speaking of things I don't want to see coming.
Yeah, so the next match on the docket, tag team titles will be on the line. Fraxium taking on Briggs and Friend.
Briggs and Friend, the Snores of Anarchy. This has to be Fraxium. This has to be not Man and Robin. Like we talked about it, I think, on Tuesday of how they're not only the best tag team in NXT, they're probably the best tag team in WWE. They're one of the best tag teams in pro wrestling right now as it is. And I don't see them dropping the belts I can't even remember who's on the team.
Right. I think this is easy Fraxium retaining here. They've already teased with a video package in TNA of Fraxium versus the Hardys. That was the first match I called out when this partnership was, realized. So yeah, Fraxium has to win so they can, face the Hardys because they called it like a champion versus champion match. But I don't even know who those other two guys are, and I watch NXT every week. So I'm just gonna take the guys that I know who they are, and that's Fraxium.
Fraxium. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go against the champs, and they've had better challengers, more compelling challengers. I don't love the idea that Briggs, I didn't want them to win the number one contender spot. They did. The idea that they could win the titles and then I guess let the titles try and make the team. As much as I like being difficult, I cannot. There's just way too much fun stuff for Fraxium to do, and they've earned it. They've established themselves. They will lose it, but Briggs and Yoshi, today the day? No. Tomorrow? No. I don't think so. I don't think we're ready.
No. Do we get Fraxium versus the Hardys at Stand and Deliver, since we talked about earlier, kind of building that card down the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get them at Stand and Deliver. We can get them at Sacrifice that I think is in March. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, I think you want Stand and Deliver to be as big as possible.
Yeah.
Having the Hardys come in like champion versus champion, non-title even. But just for this year, the Hardys are going to be at NXT. I think it's crazy cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why they must win here versus
Right.
Briggs and Friend, as KJ so eloquently put, and it's so apt.
Right. I want to see NXT change up with new champions, just me. I don't necessarily feel that way with Fraxium just because they keep putting in bangers. Like they don't feel stale.
No, I think we'll see change up with titles, just not in the tag division. They don't like NXT has a deep tag team division. I don't know if they have a top heavy tag division. Like that's the thing is you have Axel and Fraser, and then everyone's like right now, just story wise, build wise, like a knock or two down.
Yeah, it's Fraxium and then everybody else at this point. And it's clearly seen and clearly known that they're miles above anyone right now in the tag team division in NXT.
True. They can move. So I mean the idea maybe that Fraxium's on their way up, take on teams like MCMG, DIY. Again, a very interesting variable to the whole scenario. The chat going 85% for Fraxium as expected. Yeah, I can't really deviate from kind of the obvious here. It would be a big surprise if this was the title change we get on the weekend.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised that there's like a 12 or 15%, that went it against them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, maybe it's just has their time come to an end. I think it's too close. You keep Fraxium for Stand and Deliver because they're gonna bang it out at Stand and Deliver.
The only variable question I would say is that they have still at times, or they did for a while, tease the split between Fraser and Axiom. So does that come into play? Granted, I think another team later down the card will split, but could that be why some people think that they'll eventually drop the titles and just go into a singles feud? Is the singles feud Stand and Deliver?
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, again, them as individuals seems far less fun than them as a team.
Together you rock. Apart you suck.
Yeah, like I don't know if I really care about like Nathan Fraser's solo run or an A-Kid solo run. Maybe it's best Fraxium is Fraxium and they don't fracture at any point.
Right.
Yeah. Don't fracture the Fraxium equation. And I do just have to quickly kick on this from C Money because it's hilarious. Did someone say sacrifice? Hello, my friend.
Couldn't help himself. I like
Absolutely. No, I thought it when he said it.
I like it. But all right, gentlemen. Now we get into some other heavy lifting and some very interesting ones. Stephanie McClure will get her first chance at Fallon directly anyway coming up. So Fallon will defend that North American title against Stephanie. This one's interesting.
Stephanie wins. Stephanie wins. I like Fallon. I like both girls. I think it'll be a fantastic match. But especially the tease of Stephanie eyeing Julia's title and that coming down later towards the road. Stephanie wins the title here. It's been the writing on the wall, I feel.
Yeah, I'm clear cut with Stephanie Valkyrie. Like I want her to win this title. I want her to rule that mid card women's division in NXT. I know she can do it. She's over already. I feel like this is Stephanie's moment. I don't want them to save this for Stand and Deliver. I want them to have this coming Saturday.
Can I spin this?
Spin your magic wheel.
Steph's gonna get it. Steph's gonna get a lot of opportunity. I just don't know. But then something has to happen. You have 4 title matches. Somebody's got to have something go down, right? I think. Right. But this one feels the most viable. Fallon's had it for a few months. Stephanie's on fire. She's over. She has one of the most popular moves in the entire wrestling world right now. Stephanie McClure. Yeah, it's hard to argue.
I like this. I'm a Vac-Her backer. Vac-Her. We need that merch. I'm a Vac-Her backer. Booker T be buying that shit fast.
Now, is there any chance that the outside interference delays this celebration? Is Steph Steph actually eyeballing Julia? So Fallon has this match, finds a way to steal it. But Steph's floating and still has a chance to go after Julia. We don't know what Julia. I mean, Stephanie Vacour, Julia at Stand and Deliver sounds really pretty.
You can get there with her still winning this match. You said it earlier in your argument of there's so many title matches on this card. Something's got to change. You can't you can't do chalk across the board with this. Something's going to change, and this is the prime candidate for it.
Yeah, now I'm nervous about Fraxium all over again. Can we go back? Yeah, you got a valid point. Like, something's got to give. I mean, again, there's so much talent. So to kind of feel like it has to be, if Stephanie Vacour wins this match, I don't believe that she'll be fighting Julia at Stand and Deliver.
Fair enough. But then you can still do that next year. That's the thing. Is you both just brought these women in. I think this will be a fantastic match. This arguably might be the best women's match of the night. I'll say that. And I just think, even though we know it's going to be Stephanie, I think Fallon's going to look great here. She's climbed the tower. She's beaten all the underbosses to get here. She gets the trophy. She wins.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, the chat completely 91%, which is as close to.
Is that the most decisive decision?
It's one of them for sure. I mean, it's up there, 91, 92% for Stephanie. Huge favorite. A lot of people expecting this one. I just wonder if we're all expecting it. Do they do something funky to,
Well, I can see your hesitation and I get it, but it's one of those that it'd be a popcorn fart if you did that here, honestly. Like, what do? Do you have Shotzi screw over Stephanie, or we do again because of Christ, now I can't think of her faction with JC Jane and Jasmine Eggs. I can't think of the name, but they get involved. Then that's an NXT weekly television angle. Fatal Influence. Thank you.
Interesting.
Only thing I can think of that could potentially happen with this matchup, maybe, I know the rumors are saying Jordan Grace is headed to NXT. What if Jordan Grace got involved some type of way? I don't know.
Now you just made me feel better. That is Julia's opponent at Stand and Deliver.
Oh, Jordan Grace.
Yeah, I like that shout.
Is it her, or does she does Jordan take on Steph? Either one's fantastic, but I can very much see you with Julia. Yeah.
Well, considering how upset people are, not people, I don't want to say everybody, considering there's people out there that feel like Jordan going to NXT is silly, her fighting for the mid card in NXT might even be more
silly.
Well, no, we politely tell those people they are wrong. It's like Hank Hill at the grill was, if they ask for their steak well done, we politely ask those people to leave because it ain't that serious, folks.
Yeah, it's really not that serious. I am on the side of, like, I kind of want her on the main roster, but it's not that serious. Like, it doesn't need to be a knockdown, drag out argument about where she should go. She's in the door, she's in WWE, and that's technically all that matters.
To me, the whole thing really breaks down to, it's the same reason why Ricky Starks is starting off in NXT to an extent. Besides just that, yes, the hardcore fans, you can even make the case that clearly the casual fans kind of knew who he was, or at least the ones that attend Full Sail, because they were chanting Ricky Starks. But the WrestleMania angles and story and the pathway there, the road to WrestleMania has already been paved and set in stone. So sliding people that are coming in now into NXT as almost, we're going to heat you up a little bit and then we'll shoot you up to the main roster post WrestleMania is the perfect case scenario with this. And the fact that people can't see it baffles me.
I had a approximately 50-minute monologue about this whole scenario.
Oh, I heard it. I enjoyed it.
I waited all day to get that off my chest. Yeah, again, I think it blows my mind that people don't understand. Like, this isn't a video game. This isn't 2K where you just drop somebody in. Like, there's shit in motion. There's things happening. Oh, well, we'll just Ricky versus Cody, WrestleMania. Fuck it, he's that cool. Like it's just senseless to me that people can't grasp what is happening. And I have no issue with any of the talent that haven't been in WWE coming in and figuring it out. This is the music we're going to use. When your music makes this sound, you make this pivot. By the time your music's here, you got to be there. Like, there's those finite details that aren't on all shows, right? Like, I mean, with Jordan, she's been on TV for a long time. Ricky's not a young guy, like a super youth, but two youths, anybody? I mean, again, nothing wrong with getting a little bit of exposure, a little bit of, fine tuning, right? Just you want them to be at their best when you put them, because if they go to the main roster and they shit the bed, you might not come back from it ever.
Well, it's also you just don't even want to shoehorn people into stuff just because, like you said, of just, well, they're cool right now. Cool. Well, now you take that and you let it slow burn. You let it build and get bigger and everything. And it's like the same people that were all outraged because Penta had a match on main event before Raw. Still had a killer vignette and everything like that on Monday Night Raw. But he's still going to work a show or two. That's not all the big and everything. So we can get used to WWE style. Yes, he's been everywhere.
I think the IWC just takes things out of proportion. I mean, it's the microwave society, like I've been saying since I've joined the channel, that they want things quickly. And I like everything you said, KJ, is absolutely right. It's a machine. They have to learn things. I think for me, when it comes to Jordan Grace, I'm just such a big fan. I just want to see her on the main roster. But it makes sense because she's only did a handful of NXT dates, and she probably didn't get the in-depth of how things work, just doing select dates. And I think when it comes to the IWC, they get so excited to see one person and they want to book their own show, and then when it doesn't happen, they get super upset and emotional and cry and moan and whine on Twitter and on TikTok and whatever other social media you want to use, and it really just makes them look stupid, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, the main event thing blows my mind. And it's people looking. So when you're looking for a sign, like to strengthen your own argument, you don't look at the bigger picture. John Cena is going to do some house shows in 2025. It's been said. Cody Rhodes does house shows. The entire roster at some point does some house shows. And I went on last night about how many people that we now think are superstars that went through NXT, that did a stint. Like, if NXT, if you roll the clock back and Drew McIntyre shows up in NXT, the current fan base, I can't believe this. He was no, but he did. He went there. He had his stint there. It wasn't a long one. He became champion, lost to Andrade, went to the main roster. The rest is history. He's a perfect example of a guy that didn't need to go there, but you can go there. Bobby Roode went there. There's so much talent that, get him in there. Jordan Grace will be a prominent fixture, a prominent part of Stand and Deliver. I think she goes after the world title. Ricky Starks will be something special at Stand and Deliver as well.
Absolutely. It is cognitive dissonance is what it is. It is you're already looking for an outcome, so your brain naturally finds that outcome and makes the pathway to it. It's especially right now, beyond even if you want to view who's talent where or anything like that, like we've said, the pathway, the storyline that they're going through, that they've already mapped out, going on the road to WrestleMania is already there. This isn't, we're going to shoehorn, like you said. All of a sudden, Ricky Starks is going to be, the main event. Jey Uso now, because Ricky Starks is here. Like, we're not going to do stuff like that.
No.
You can't sit there and say we want long-term booking and then get mad when they stick to long-term booking.
Yeah. Hurry up and be, but hurry up, but make it long-term. We can't do both.
Right.
The last thing I'll say
about it in 30 seconds, but make it taste like you took 30 hours.
Right. That's kind of sums it up pretty good. The last thing I'll say about it is that people have to stop treating NXT like old NXT. It's not purely developmental anymore. It's not people, I don't think, realize how the WWE views TNA, AEW, the independents, and people can argue all day long about how they feel about it. But if you're consistently performing in small venues in front of less than 2,000 people or in the neighborhood of 2,000 people, well, now you're coming to us. And if we're going to put you in front of 15,000 people, we want you to be as ready as possible. And there's nothing wrong with being a big fish in a small pond for a little bit. But NXT is doing better ratings than AEW. Let's be real. It's not just this kiddie show that nobody knows exists. It's on national TV. We're good. We'll be good for a while.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. One of the main events, we're not sure what one is actually going to be the main event, but one of the main events at Vengeance Day, Fatal 4-Way as of Tuesday. Cora Jade finds herself in the mix, having issues with Roxy now because she wants the belt. But we got Cora, Roxy, Bailey, all going after Julia's newly won title. And I know we feel like the answer is obvious on this one, and I think all three of us are going to pick the same way. But it's interesting because it's a Fatal 4-Way.
It is, and that's why I think this main event. Sorry, this is the first time I've seen the graphic with Cora involved, and she looks like she's like a late 90s, early 2000s, like kind of alt punk band album cover right now, like very much Paramore, Sum 41, Blink-182 vibes. But I think this is clearly the runaway with Julia. I really liked Roxanne showing up as Hugger Bailey on Tuesday, and I like that. You called it initially right out the gate with Cora getting added to this match. So I think this will be a very good match, but Julia wins.
Yeah. Obviously, I think like this is Julia's, win here. I honestly wanted this to kind of stay a triple threat. I don't really see Cora as being entertaining. I just think she's kind of boring. And then like she was on TNA last week and she was on commentary, and the only thing she could say was, "I don't like Ash. I don't like Zaya Brookside. I don't like this wrestler." And it was just kind of bland and boring. And I was actually expecting her to say more. And it was just like, "I don't like this. I don't like that."
Well, her brain went to here.
I don't know. I don't feel what everybody feels about Cora Jade. I feel like she's just kind of bland and it's just there. But not Roxanne, but Julia takes this win. I would love to see a singles match with Julia and Bailey one day, like just straight up singles match. But yeah, obviously Julia takes the cake here.
Literally and figuratively in some ways. But I'm with you. Julia just got the belt. She is a big deal. I hope this match is really strong, and I hope it leads to something real strong for Julia at Stand and Deliver. I don't see her dropping the belt. Cora is put in the match. I see the comment here by Vance, but I think Cora's in the match to eat the pin. You protect Roxy and Bailey. And I believe Roxy is going to make it into the Elimination Chamber, which we will be here very shortly to talk about next week or the week after. I think Roxanne makes it into the Chamber. The Bailey storyline continues for her, which leaves Julia Cora. Cora to me has always been a little immature, part of her youth and development. But you're right. Like, I don't like this. I don't like that. When she cuts a promo, she sounds like a whiny teenager. When she argues with Bailey, it's hilarious because it's like, Freaky Friday. Like, what is happening?
She was a skater girl. We said, "See you later, girl."
Now she's a kendo girl.
Yeah. But I think that this is a match that's much more of a snowplow to clear the path for Julia. Like, could we see, we mentioned earlier, could Jordynne Grace come out? This closes out the show. Yeah. Now, granted, does this close out the show or does the little Vengeance Day upstart faction close out the show? We'll see. But does this close out the show? Jordynne Grace comes out, kind of challenges Julia, because I think Bailey and Roxanne skips lily pads, leapfrogs all the way to the main roster with this, and Cora goes to TNA to take on Masha and lose a limb.
And lose a limb. I was like,
that's a bad woman. I'm a grown man, twice her size, and I wouldn't even dare. No, she's saying, "Thank you." I say, "Yes, ma'am."
That losing limb caught me off guard for real, but putting her up on Masha's kill wall, I'm here for it.
I thought you were naming like it was another one of those bad NXT names, like next up, lose a limb. But yeah, I mean, again, I think the chat right now, 75% Julia, 12 for Cora. Cora's in second. So people messing with us, but Bailey and Rox tied at 9. I don't see Bailey, being champion. Rox was champion and Cora's not ready. That simple.
Yeah.
No one in this match is technically really having a feud with Julia.
No, they're all
Right.
Roxanne's having a feud with Bailey. Bailey's having a feud with Roxanne, and Cora's just interjected herself because she's attached to Roxanne, and they're starting a feud that way. No one's out and outright storyline wise really has beef with Julia. She's just happens to be the champion at this time.
Facts.
You can say like slightly Roxanne might be out for revenge just to get her title back from Julia, but other than that, you're like exactly right, Nick. Like no one's outright upset with Julia and having a feud with Julia.
Yeah, that's a valid point. This is an interesting comic. TNA Unbreakable is coming around April 17th. It will be set around WrestleMania Stand and Deliver. Anthony, get ready.
Did they rename Rebellion? Because Rebellion's already been announced for April 17th.
Okay, some typo maybe?
Or somewhere around that time.
Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Mr. Glass. Is that what we're talking about? Unbreakable? M. Night Shyamalan? Is he the new
Unbreakable is some type of special they're having? I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a special. TNA Unbreakable set to return on April 17th.
Return? When did it start?
Well, I mean, Unbreakable going back to like 2005?
Yeah, 2005.
Like, it's
a blind spot of this memory.
It's confirmed, though. I'm looking at it on Fightful, TNA Unbreakable in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
April 17th.
So that's their... Could that be the... No, because you have Stand and Deliver that weekend.
Yeah. No, so
could that be the crossover show? But you'd have it be independent, but it'd still be WrestleMania weekend.
It is something that TNA does that I hate just as a fan is they'll put little like names on some of their tapings.
Oh,
like we're gonna be the Bama Bash because you're doing like a few tapings in Alabama, and you're like, wait, is this something important I gotta watch? And you're like, no, we're good. It's just the name you put on a live show.
I would have to see how they put this together because Rebellion is literally a week later. I don't like that, but we'll see.
It might be too close. All right. We all go in Julia, which leads us to the main event. Again, this might not be the. I'm not super excited for this main event.
No, I hope this isn't the main event. I feel like this will be a quicker decision than we said with the Julia one. Go ahead.
The only reason I think you touched on it is if maybe this is the main event. Part of the main event is the fact that Waller and Theory can't get along, but maybe this is where that new crew shows up because we need someone to actually make us believe Oba can be beat. They needed two main roster guys.
So instead of two people, we brought four.
And
then four people got six, and then six people bought more.
Yeah, we need an army for Oba.
Because I'm gonna run through the names that have been allegedly figured out, acquired, interpreted, what have you, of who's going to be in this faction, unless we get a surprise leader who pops out of a grave to metal music. But Saquon Sugars, Cutler James, Keanu Carver, and Dion Lennox.
Yeah. Strength in numbers?
Any of them trying to... That's the Nexus, my guy. That's the core showing up.
So do they show up and beat up like a Trick earlier in the night?
I don't know. I'm wondering how they show up. Like, you may not be wrong, but I've seen some people think the idea that this is Malachi's faction. Like, on one hand, I've heard people say that this is just Evolve's little statement of, hey, we're here too. And that's how these are all guys that are going to be on Evolve and they pop into NXT. But I've also seen people throw out the idea of Malachi, Alistair's like kind of the leader of this is his disciples, what have you.
Yeah.
Is this the group they've been teasing at the end of NXT?
Mm-hmm.
I have no theories or thoughts. I'm just excited to kind of see who they are. The only theory that caught me off guard was Nick's when he said that it could be Leon Slater, one of the guys, because it kind of did look like Leon Slater with the bandana. So I'm like, that would be kind of interesting. And they don't have him really doing much right now. He's doing something. So having him like in NXT, I kind of would like that.
Somebody was saying the system versus Oba, the whole system.
No, I'd rather see Moose versus Oba. Like Moose
yeah,
versus
I think
Oba
that would
and
be
Stand and
ultimate.
Deliver ain't a bad show.
No, not terrible. Yeah, I think you kind of made the mention of, does Julia win the Fatal 4-Way? You end the show with Julia and Jordan standing in the ring, looking at each other, kind of setting up the next few weeks of that. That's got a better feel for me than this. This one feels like a foregone conclusion. I think you can make a better case that maybe something crazy happens in the women's, but Oba's not dropping this title. Somebody said that Theory might be fun. I think it was MDB. Yeah, Theory's not winning. Waller's not winning. They're going to beat each other up, and we're going to get something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, Oba's not losing to these two turds at all. This is Oba
Two
all
turds.
the way.
I like Geekbox, the home of black. Well,
Right.
that's, you mentioned more of the only way this ends the show is if we do get the, I guess, call them Vengeance Day now, because that's all we've seen for their sort of name or anything,
Right.
is where it shows up with the tracking thing and that. But if they just show up and they retribution again, it's gonna feel very retribution if they're gonna just show up and just destroy shit with no true intended goal. Yeah, but that would be the only way this ends the show, and then you end it with that segment. Which, granted, you could even still have Jordan come out and then still do that, but it'd be weird.
Douche canoes, please. Yeah, is there, like, there's no way that one of the two guys steal this title. I can't see it.
Yeah.
Which has better odds in this match, that Oba retains or that Grayson and Theory like fall apart
huge.
and they, split here?
Well, we saw what happened on Tuesday, right? Like they started swinging at each other. Fury missed and hit Oba. Oba standing back, watching them argue, laughing at them was my favorite part of the show. But yeah, Theory and Waller feel done. Even in the new tag team division that's setting up in WWE, Theory and Waller don't quite fit the model of what you see coming. MCMG, the War Raiders have their own style as well, but like that DIY, fast moving, fast paced, good transitions, it's not really their cup of tea.
No, but I mean, granted, you even pointed out on Tuesday, I believe, of the only time Grace Waller's finisher actually looks solid is when it's done as a double team move.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you, KJ, that like I think the tag team with them two has kind of run its course, and we kind of need to move away from it. And hopefully Saturday, this might be the breakdown of them two, have them have a small feud and then kind of go their separate ways.
Yeah, not a terrible idea.
Is
This
Waller
one's
in theory a main roster feud or an NXT feud?
Main roster, lower mid card filler.
Filler on a 3-hour SmackDown, fair.
Yeah, I mean, a lower mid card match. I mean, you need solid things in a lower mid card. The curiosity will be, will Theory be a good baby face? Or will it be Waller? But I think they're leaning towards Theory being the good guy and Waller being the pain in the ass. So,
but are you really compelled for these two to have a feud, though? Like, we know that they're supposed to split, but are you really excited for their feud after they split?
They're going to have to make us excited about it. I'll give you that.
Oh, they've had like almost a year.
But I feel like it can be done.
Right.
I hope.
Now, what's the chat saying? In a 3-way, Oba gets 92%. 4%. I don't know who voted for Theory or Waller. They got 4% each. Oba sitting at 92%. Like,
that's MDB voting for one and then C Money voting for the other.
Omos versus Oba. A lot of people talked about Omos, but Omos wasn't even in the Rumble, which surprised me.
What if you pair Omos with Oba, and then how you gonna beat that? How you gonna beat that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they partner Oba with anybody. It's mean. You don't need to.
Fair enough. Valid. But I'm more of thinking of ways of how you bring in Omos outside of, like, I could have seen him the Rumble. He pops in, he does a one-off, and you can let him chill for another 4 months or so. Now,
right? Yeah, I don't know. But ultimately, folks, that is the Vengeance card. Again, we talked for almost an hour. As far as there's a lot of content, a lot of question marks, a lot of maybes. I know some of the champions should be the favorites, and 9 times out of 10 they are. But I'm very excited for Vengeance Day. I really like how they ended the show with the hype package, and then the little teaser. It will be very interesting come Vengeance Day. And I mean, Ricky Starks, is he going to be involved? Does Ricky show up and kick somebody in the face? We haven't even mentioned that possibility.
Absolutely. I asked the question preemptively now on Thursday before Saturday. Your prediction for your match of the night and your rating out of 10 for Vengeance Day.
Oh,
preemptive ratings and preemptive match of the night. If you had to guess,
the women's fatal 4-way match of the night.
Okay.
My rating's going to be a 9.
Fair.
I'm kind of torn between the fatal 4-way and the Stephanie Valkyrie match.
Ooh.
I'm gonna be an oddball and say Fallon Henley versus Stephanie Valkyrie match of the night. I'm gonna say an 8 for the entire show.
I'm gonna split all the hairs here, and I'm gonna take Javon Evans versus Ethan Page for match of the night.
Wow.
And I'm gonna say 8.5. So I split down the middle. If I could pick up a spare, this is how I'm gonna do it.
Right. If Ricky shows up on Saturday, what does he do? Well, that's the question, right? Where would he go? Would he go after something? We don't know.
Do you put him right at Oba? Do you put him right at Oba?
The only risk is, does he have to beat Oba then? And if not, then what? It's a tough show.
The risk is the size difference of Ricky, but Ricky is tricky. And Oba's, Colossus. He is the ruler.
It may expose Ricky for being like, we know Ricky, and he doesn't seem that small in my head, but he's been fighting guys like Jungle Boy. So seeing him stand toe to toe,
he looks big next to CM Punk, and CM Punk ain't big next to nobody.
Right, that's an interesting one. It'll be very intriguing. And again, there's a lot of other names out there. Josh, Jordan, what's she gonna do? Will she make an appearance? Oh.
Well, the KJ's Light make an appearance and came back. He prayed. He's hallelujah.
Mm-hmm. Right, but the other show on Saturday night is AEW Grand Slam. It used to be a pay-per-view. Then maybe it wasn't a pay-per-view. Then it was a special show. Now it's just a pre-taped collision. And it blows my mind, and I won't spend a lot on this, folks. It blows my mind that if you are going to do something in wrestling, if you're going to do something as a business, as an entertainment business, you got to let people know. I was today years old when I found out that they were going to do a Ring of Honor add-on and that they had a name, it had graphics. I didn't see anything about that till now. That blows my mind. If you're going to do it, do it proper. Like, everything seems so like Jericho bitch. Like, I don't get to go to Australia. They're like, oh, okay, come on, like, get on the plane.
You just had a cruise, you bitch.
Right.
This whole show to me is just, I feel it's not a tumor. That is Tony's approach to it. It's not a tumor, because this has just been a festering mess cluster. Just Tony Khan has all the regrets, I feel, that he ever booked this show in any capacity. Why did we ever go to this country? Why did I ever book this as an arena show? Why did I do any of this?
You would think that, but I mean, he's bragging about how this is going. One of their best
He's
international.
the dog in the fire with the coffee mug saying everything's fine. Everything's fine.
I don't know. This whole thing is kind of just weird. I said from the beginning, no really hate to AEW, but when this was announced, this was shortly announced after WWE went to Australia last year for Elimination Chamber, and I did kind of feel like they were trying to do the same thing as WWE here.
Mhm.
Obviously, it didn't work out because a couple of months later, it was revealed that the ticket sales were not great. They wind up changing the venue. And then, like you said, it was a pay-per-view. It wasn't a pay-per-view. It was a TV special. It was a replacement for Collision. Nothing was kind of made clear. Now, to the card's point, the card is really kind of stacked, to be honest. But it's just the way it was promoted, the way it was kind of done. It wasn't presented best to the AEW fandom.
It's almost like it was built up to be a pay-per-view card.
Right, a little bit, right? And I mean, the disappointing part about this, like realistically, Anthony just nailed it. It looks good on paper, and there's a lot that we would love to see, but there was a lot I would love to see on an actual pay-per-view.
But now, was it supposed to be a pay-per-view, and it was supposed to be 12 matches? Or have AEW fans, are we going to accept that it was supposed to be a pay-per-view, we were going to have 5 matches? Which way do we go with this? Like this again, this whole thing is just a clusterfuck, right? I feel like you go, and we didn't know until 2 weeks before the show was about to happen if, where, when, where, how, and why that we could actually watch the show. Yeah. And then now, like you mentioned, we all found out today, as I'm sure the wrestlers who are going to be on the show found out today, that they're doing a Ring of Honor after the Grand Slam taping and everything. So strap on for 4 hours of wrestling at 8 o'clock there, but it'll be taped on a 21-hour delay here.
Yeah, I don't get it. I think this was poorly planned. The fact that you're airing it the same night on as the NBA All-Star festivities on the same network that you're on.
Yeah, how the fuck did you not know that? How did you not know that? You just signed a deal with them. How did you not know that?
Right. No, it's a tough show. It really is. But first match on the docket, Okada taking on Buddy Matthews, who apparently in AEW, if you want to push, have one of your friends leave the company.
The Lord of the Flies now? Is that what we're doing? Right. Survivor. Someone has to get voted off the island.
Yeah, right.
Up in stature. I'm taking Buddy Matthews here.
Bold.
I know, bold strategy, Cotton. You're going against one of the elite. You're going against one of Tony's sleepover buddies. But I think Buddy Matthews deserves this. I don't know if the Hounds of Hell are going to exactly get the tag titles anytime soon. I think this works with, again, like a bit like you said, of you had to change your whole gimmick. You had to have somebody leave. So we'll give you a consolation trophy. Here's the Continental Championship. Prepare to do nothing with it, but you can have it.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun and great match. I don't really see Okada losing, but I don't know. I'm gonna take Okada. I'm gonna be difficult and take Okada, but I'm just excited to see the match as a whole. I think this match is gonna bang and it's gonna go hard.
Yeah, I think this match has a lot of potential, and I think my hesitation with even the match is Okada. Okada hasn't shown a shit ton in AEW. He's kind of mailed it in a little bit, got gold. His last, when he fought to get the title back or to win the tournament again, I thought that was the best Okada we've had in AEW. I think that Okada is still in there, so this match should be an absolute banger. I think what really messing up my prediction gauge for this one is, do you start dropping major belts on a Collision that's airing at 10:30 at night?
You're gonna get people to can talk again. It's the brain melt of, are you looking at this as a pay-per-view, or are you looking at this, like you said, as a Collision that I might be tuning in when I think this is going to start and be watching the dunk contest and everything?
Yeah.
I think when it comes to me, I'm not looking at it as more of a pay-per-view or a Collision, because let's be honest, Collision sucks and would never have a card like this. So when it comes to, I see it more as a special. like a televised special event.
Oh, don't say
Right.
Battle of the Belts because they do those even worse than Collision.
I didn't mention Battle of the Belts. I'm just
Fair
saying I
enough.
feel like this is more of as just a special televised event, because we have to be honest, Collision will never have a card like this. People don't even watch Collision. The AEW faithfuls don't watch Collision, but I have seen the AEW faithfuls talk about Grand Slam and the grand scheme of how the card is really good. So I'm more of inclined to call this a special, not a pay-per-view, not Collision, but I don't see any titles changing. And to be honest, there's one title I would like to be see change. We'll get to that, but I don't see any titles changing.
Mm-hmm. I will quickly remind anybody out there, if you are currently watching wrestling that might be happening right now, please keep it to yourself. Anthony will show up at your door and beat you up. No spoilers.
I've been avoiding the chat all night, so
no spoilers
because of it.
Fair enough. I haven't seen nothing, but yeah,
no, nothing major, nothing. It was just I think people don't realize we are in a spoiler-free zone sometimes.
Well, sometimes when we ain't talking about that show, they don't realize that we still spoiler free over there. But
we still like to watch. Pause. But Okada is going to win this one.
Well, you though, KJ, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I've had the exact same thoughts of Okada's the biggest wild card for me with this. Because do we get Okada versus Ospreay because that's New Japan Okada? It's like how we have New Japan Kenny with AEW Kenny. Like, do I get AEW Okada or do I get New Japan Okada? Because if I get New Japan Okada versus Buddy Matthews, who I might have done this thing in New Japan, I may be wrong, but you get those two having a match. Well, either way, you get Buddy Matthews out there, 205 Live King, having a match with New Japan Kazuchika Okada. Melt faces with how good this match is. But that's the thing, is if Okada phones this in, this is a forgettable, regrettable match.
Aren't we setting up or teasing Okada versus Will Ospreay for All In July? Like, aren't we kind of
Omega versus Okada
6 months from now?
We wait all the way until July. That's how long. we
Omega, Omega. Did I say
Omega versus Okada?
Omega.
He's got to treat this like Rocky III. He's got to go out to the mountains of Osaka and sit there and chop down trees and run up mountains in snow with him on his shoulders and everything. He's got to be the best around. He's got to have a montage.
I don't get why they teased that. Why Kenny returned during Okada winning the Continental Classic and making everyone go, oh, and then just forgetting that it even existed. It's weird booking. It's weird setup. It's weird to tease something and then not follow through with it. It's odd for me in a lot of ways, but I mean, if there was ever a time for Buddy to win, I mean, Okada's had the belt for a year 2 years. Like he won.
We didn't even know if he was going to retain it or how he could retain it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't pick him to win it back or win the tournament. So the fact that he's still champion blows my mind. His faction all but abandoned him. But it should be a fun match.
Does Tony book like browser history of just whatever catches his eye for the minute, gets a little bit of a prevalency, relevancy, and then he clicks out of that tab and it goes away forever, which acts like, that never happened. Clear history.
I was explaining to a friend yesterday, I feel like Tony books, if you've ever sat down and listened to somebody under the age of 10 tell a story, like if you have a nephew.
Did you ever have a dream that you thought you had when you think you thought you did?
Right. What? I got a 10-year-old, and sometimes the 10-year-old comes in the room and just starts talking, but there's no real plot. The characters don't add up. You got to like rewind and go, wait, what? Like that's what Tony Khan's storytelling is it's the equivalent of a toddler trying to explain something to you. Like there was this thing, and then a thing happened, and then there was people, and there's no real rhyme or reason, nothing. Like that's what it is. Like it's insane.
First I hear him like this, and then like this, and then done.
Linda,
listen. I get now that's all I'm gonna think in my head is KJ, listen.
KJ giving TK a lot of credit. All right. This match we want to talk about. This match, I want to believe that this channel has been a part of the Harley Cameron movement. I'd like to think that we want Harley. We want Harley. Harley's phenomenal. I've been such a fan of this lady for a long time. And my God, it's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry.
No, it's going to happen. The live action Mercedes Moné is not even the most over Mercedes Moné in this match. The fucking puppet's more over than her.
Exactly. I wanted this to happen before I even knew Harley Cameron was from Australia. I didn't know she was from Australia, and literally until this promo this past week on Dynamite. But can we talk about how Harley Cameron raps better than Mercedes Moné? Because she cleared Mercedes Moné's own theme song. She cleared it all the way. And that was like the moment when I was like, she has to win on Saturday. I don't think it's going to happen, but I want it so bad. And I fear, and comes down to Tony Khan, I fear if the trigger is not pulled here, it's never going to be pulled.
I'm afraid they don't want to take, like, she's, Monet 4 belts. And my fear is she is one of Tony's shiny favorite toys that gets the special case and the special treatment. That they're not going to do it. It's just he's oblivious.
I have been the one that says Mercedes will hold this belt to infinity and beyond and everything. I will go on the record in admitting that I have said that.
Yes.
But Harley Cameron has all the talent that Mercedes Moné thinks she has. I will say that I am a late to the party Harley. I was initially a Harley denier. No, I rev my Harley fast and loud. Pause. But you have to do this. Like it would be. This is the make good, like we saw with the Super Bowl. Of we heard everybody saying that Mercedes has to win all the time, can't be beat, can't be denied. She's even saying, "Oh, I'd like to say who I'd like to see AEW bring in, but the other company would sign them all." Yeah, like this woman can't go fucking 24 hours without some cringeworthy, vomit-inducing fucking statement that comes out of her mouth. And so, if you're gonna prove all the haters wrong, you're gonna give one for the Gipper here. Harley Cameron wins.
Okay, so the only thing I disagree, I agree with 95% of what you just said. The only thing I object to is
4%. 5%. So
it's even bigger.
That's what she said. It's even bigger,
right? He said it was 4. It turned out 5. But the idea, like, she doesn't have to win this, but if you use this match to set up Revolution, good job. Because
no one gives a about Revolution with this. No, this is the moment of the sun.
No, but wait, your major pay-per-view? You don't, nobody cares?
And see, I was gonna say that because I kind of like, if they don't pull the trigger now, they have to do it at Revolution. But my fear is Tony Khan just not doing this at all. To me, this is, and I hate to say it, but to me, I feel like this match is only happening because it's in Harley Cameron's hometown, right?
But
so I feel like there won't be a follow-up to this after.
That's the fear. I think that's the fear. That's why I think, Nick, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that maybe why you feel like now is the moment, because by the time he gets back off that plane in the US of A, he may have forgot the Harley situation even happened.
Oh, absolutely. That was literally, 100%. Actually, that's why I was out here caught in the corner. Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. Of this is you're capitalizing on the moment. You're not going to have a bigger reaction. You're not going to have a feel good moment. And we briefly talked about this before we went live. Of I think if it were to get leaked that Harley beat Mercedes, there's the potential you may have more people tune in and pay attention. just to see that, because let's be honest, Mercedes ain't over with anybody unless you're JD from NY until she got booked in House of Glory. But anyways, no one's been a Mercedes fan. No one's liked her running AEW. And so this is the Kansas City Chiefs. If you told the national viewership that, hey, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, you might get even more people to tune in.
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe. But at the same time, I mean, Revolution is 3 weeks away. Who is Mercedes fighting?
She could lose it in 3 weeks. She could lose it back at Revolution.
That would be fucking nuts. If you like, Harley's so over, not just with the Australian fans. She is over with the American fans. You got Bully Ray, you got other podcasters out there. Everyone's talking about Harley. So she's still over. So I think this is one of the ones, if it's just dropped after Grand Slam, it's going to sting the fan base. It's going to be one of the ones where the fan base goes,
oh, you both think he just done. He just dead it.
I would run it back at Revolution. I think you do, like,
she loses, then you dead it double.
You let her win. You let her win at Revolution.
Okay.
Like, my thing is, if you had, like, this isn't going to be the main event, so you have other things to kind of throw at them to make her happy. I would book it where there's like 5 or 6 false finishes. You pull the whole building in that they think she's going to do it. And if you want to get real heat on Sasha cheats and runs away. And she gets booed out of the building. This way, when they get back to the States, we're dying for that rematch. And we get 3 weeks of Harley Cameron promos and puppets and rapping. I'm in. Have it. Take my money.
Yeah. As long as he can do the follow-up at Revolution. Like, I'm fine with it if he can do the follow-up at Revolution. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So, Anthony, you think he deads it? Like, that's...
I mean...
that's like kneecapping your top draw.
But we've seen that over and over again. That's why I think we're all hesitant.
Right.
You're not wrong. Does the Muppet get a pin? Does she actually put the puppet on her hand and pin Mercedes here?
That's what they should do, a contract signing and then pin her with her own puppet.
The puppet signs the contract?
Maybe. Right?
So goes to the table.
I'm going Monet. I think Nick's going Harley. And Anthony.
I guess I'm going to have to say Monet.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. See, the last thing I'm going to say about this match is Tony Khan has been on the record. I booked for the sickos. Well, the sickos that showed up at your shows recently are losing their mind for Harley. So if you're not responding, we saw it with Wardlow, we saw it with others, that they get over and then you just don't listen to your audience. So I think he's lying. I don't think he books for the sickos. At least I don't think the sickos are the fan base. I think the sickos are him and his 12 friends that hang out and tell Chris Jericho he's awesome at wrestling.
What? You mean a billionaire doesn't give a shit about people? What? In America? What? Breaking news, folks. No, 100% of he uses the sicko and everything as a dog whistle. That's how you get people that cause shit and stir shit up and get shit trending on Twitter and everything. Because it's a fucking grift. It's a fucking dog whistle. Like, he books what he wants to book, what his friends want to do, and everything. I've been saying this for the longest time, and it's amazing how more and more people start to realize it. It's just WCW. He's not out there booking for what the fans want, because if you book for what the fans want, Harley's winning this. Clear as day.
Yeah. I mean, again, to a very good point. Another women's match for a title. This has a lot of story. We don't really need to debate the story because it's a long debate. But Toni Storm, Mariah May should bang. Could arguably be a match of the night if done properly. Again, very interesting. A lot of people think Tony's going to beat her. Again, I struggle because it's on Collision at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
I like this feud had its ups and downs, but I feel like this could top their All-In match. I feel like this could top their All-In match. I'm going to say Mariah May. I don't want her to retain the title, honestly, but I'm stuck in the process of this being just a television special, and it's just like I don't think they're going to change titles. So Mariah May takes the win here.
Tony Storm absolutely wins. This is again another example of they built this to be a pay-per-view, and it turned out it couldn't be a pay-per-view. And this, I almost feel I'm torn on. Do you want this to get out that Tony wins and people tune in? Or because to me, this is like the pillar of what the show was built upon. Of this was the foundation here. This is the whole reason for the show. So yeah, this is what people would. This is the one thing people are making sure to tune in for.
Yeah, I mean, they sent Tony over to do the press. Tony's been over there a lot. Again, there's a lot of history here. Tony's another one who's a fan favorite at times. Most of the time, I think this should be a really good match. I see some of the comments based on what I had said. You guys are funny, and I do appreciate it. But yeah, man, I think I just can't imagine you're gonna have multiple title changes on this fucking card.
Yes, you are. You're gonna make this shit matter. This is the only way. This is the only way that you can make this matter is that you actually switch shit up with it. Otherwise, like Anthony said, it's another Collision episode. It is another, and especially if this is at 10:30, 10:45, 10:54, what have you at night after the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, everything. Make it matter. That's the only way you can make it matter is to switch shit up.
But I don't know if it does matter. That's the fucking.
Can you make it? That's what make it means.
Yeah, but it's not like, I mean, again, a show, a preempted show, not in your normal time slot, not live. Man, could you imagine the dub pulled something like this?
No, because I don't think they'd fucking schedule it that terribly and that poorly that they'd cut up that bad.
People are shitting on fucking Penta for having a main event match. Could you imagine if LA Knight beat Shinsuke on a taping of fucking main event? People would lose their mind. Like, what are they doing? It's stuck in my head, and I can't look past the fact.
Just because they wouldn't do it doesn't mean they won't do it.
It's called Hail Mary. Yeah, kind of good point. That's the other part of this is my rational brain says that makes no sense, but I'm not dealing with.
There is no rational mind here.
Yeah. All right, that touche to that tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
65% of the chat going with Tony, 35 going with Mariah, so a slight favorite, a slight edge to.
Okay. It's close though, or close.
It should be. I mean, these two have been highly competitive.
What do you do with Tony after? Like, I was gonna ask the question of either one, but after like if Tony loses here, where do you go? Then she put on the whole facade for naught.
Well, she put on the whole facade for naught anyway, but that's a different fucking. That's a long. Like I said, it didn't make any sense.
That's the whole company. But
you get your ass whooped and then jump up and say to the person that whooped your ass, "I tricked you." You're like, wait, what? So what? You got your ass whooped. Like, why'd you tell
fucking JWoww? You can stay here and get your ass beat. You can stay here and get your ass beat.
Right? Shouldn't you whoop someone's ass and then go, haha, gotcha? But you're the one laying down, like, I was telling you.
What do you do when I'm kicking my own ass?
So dumb.
The fucking pen was blue.
Right. I'm going Mariah May. I don't think this is the end of these two. I think Revolution is too close for certain things, and I think this is one of the things that ends up at Revolution. Because who do you book against Mariah May or Tony in 3 weeks?
Then you do it. You run it back, and then whoever won at Grand Slam wins again.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, boys. We have a huge tag match. Arguably could be, maybe, might be match of the year candidate. If done proper. No titles on the line, thank God, because that's more confusing than anything. Kenny Ospreay teaming up, taking on the Callis family, who they can't get rid of. Callis family is like the herpes of wrestling. You just stuck with them forever. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do this one. It should be a hell of a match. The baby faces are winning.
Yes. Glitter is also, much like you said, of wrestling, was of the craft
Glitter,
world.
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm excited for this match, but also have we not fallused the callus so too much here a little bit of can we move on to something a wee bit different or like it's going to be a good match. I don't really exactly like this whole story or anything of how we got here. This is more of just the match is going to be good for the talent's sake here. And again, I think this has to be Kenny and Ospreay. Kenny just came back.
Yeah.
Bob's your uncle. There we go.
Yeah, I think this is easily Will Ospreay and Kenny. I'm just excited for the wrestling aspect of this match because I know it's going to be really good and probably match of the night, match of the one of the matches of the year. I am a little bit tired of the whole Don Callis family, all of that drama and hoopla, but the wrestling aspect of this match is really going to be good.
Yeah, I think that's the. It's almost, and for the longest time, I think it was Tony's kind of fail-safe of it doesn't matter what I book, as long as I get the right people in the ring at some point, the wrestlers will figure it out from there. That's what this match feels like for me. To me, this match it screams some of my issues with Wednesday Night Wrestling. Of I got Kenny and Ospreay in the mid card, I got Moxley running around with a suitcase in the main event. Like the show isn't booked proper. We get this, but this match is going to be absolute fire. The only thing I'll throw out there, could Kenny and Ospreay have issues with each other?
I hope so. Honestly, I hope so at this point. I thought that was what this match was going to, what this whole story with the Kenny returns and everything was at least going to, if not Okada initially, and then we got to wait until July for Okada. But yeah, like you were saying with Tony, this is a little bit like, all right, so I got LeBron at center, and I got Austin Matthews at goalie. I got Patrick Mahomes as my kicker. I think I should be good on offense here. Like, cool, you're just throwing talent here that they'll have a good match because of the talent's good. Beyond that, makes no sense. Really, like it's such just overdone and just we've seen enough of it. Of you're relying on this is going to be good because the wrestlers are good.
Yeah. Well, it's the argument for me is like how many times has Will Ospreay beaten up everybody in the Callis family over and over and over again? Now he's got a friend to help him. He didn't need
this. Is like his seventh match with Fletcher.
Like shit. Anybody going against the baby faces in this one?
No.
Nah.
No. Okay. All right. Does Don Callis sucking as much as he does solidify his top heel spot? Callis could be a good heel manager. The problem is the people he manage either don't wrestle or lose when they do wrestle.
That's true.
Takeshita's already been booked better in New Japan than he has anytime recently in AEW. And Fletcher has been great, but his story with Ospreay has ran its course a la like the Liv Rhea storyline in WWE.
Yeah, hasn't. I think Ospreay has beat Fletcher twice, maybe even 3 times.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like this is like their 7th match against each other. We had Mark Davis show up, like that was supposed to be cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of a repeat of itself. And that's why I said like I'm kind of over the whole Don Callis, hoopla.
Hoopla. I'm sorry, Anthony. I just always go back to the SpongeBob clip of hoopla.
Bibbly boo-ball. Yeah, and I was just trying to find out and trying to remember when was the last time we watched a Takeshita singles match? Straight up singles. It was on a collision in January. He defeated Shibata in 13 minutes.
The Ops now. That he defeated the Ops.
Oh, the Ops. That's right. That's fucking insane. I'm not even getting into that tonight. It's going to make my brain explode. And he beat Hobbs back in December.
Hobbs.
So, people saying, well, Shinsuke's title run, he hasn't defended it in 70 days, and they're fucking up. I mean, that's kind of the norm in AEW where we don't see.
I mean, the Trios title didn't get defended, hasn't been defended since November, which I thought was insane of a fucking stat to say out loud. Like, you're telling me you haven't defended a title in like fucking 4 months?
Right.
What are you saying?
No, it's insane. The chat is 93% Kenny. Small pocket of fans going with Callis family. It'd be insane if the Callis family pulled it off, but I think they want the happy moment, and we'll go from there. But the main event, maybe this might be the main event.
This has to be. This probably, unfortunately, will be.
Yeah, which
there's more matches on this card that I'm excited for besides this. Like
every single match is more exciting than this one.
Yes,
this is my least excited. Like the least I'm excited for a match is this one by a mile. Like, think of the list we just went through. Tony Storm, Mariah May, I can get behind that. Harley, we're actually excited just to see if maybe she'll do it. Yeah. Buddy and Okada, much more exciting. Good English. But it's a lot more exciting. Dude, they took a Spike 2x4. I know people, Spike. He PCO'd the AEW championship. Why? You want to win it?
PCO even looked awkward when he did it. You thought you were gonna.
What?
I said PCO even looked awkward when he did it with the championship, and you thought you were gonna look awkward with it. I think this is what I popped in the chat because even the missus who was falling asleep with me watching Dynamite sat there and let out, "What the fuck?"
I'm just over anything the Death Riders do. It's not entertaining. It's not good. It's complete trash. I don't understand it. Tony Khan doesn't understand it, and I'm believing John Moxley doesn't even understand what he's trying to do. It's wasting time on Dynamite. Honestly, this whole Death Riders thing is wasting time.
It is insanity. It is like Moxley's running around and he's drooling and he's like got the arms out and then like PCO destroyed a belt because he said up yours. Cope is trying to win that belt. What are you doing?
Well, he didn't see the man 4 feet beside him there, with the steel chair that clatters him in the back and everything as he walks in the doorway. I feel slightly like the Death Riders thing is kind of like the McBain thing from The Simpsons, is if you take all of these segments together and you stitch them all in one thing, you get a terrible, shitty C, D, maybe B, like action movie here of very much like WWE Studios presents the Marine 64 and it's Moxley and crew, but in the back of a pickup.
Oh, man. And let's just on a quick side note, the Guns return to AEW. They're in a faction with Jay White. They get in a match with two guys that have a manager at ringside. They lose convincingly. No sign of Jay White until the next segment where he's helping a guy he's not affiliated with, who I've now coined as the Great White Cope.
No, that's the two ball guys. But yeah,
you would think. But yeah, it blows my mind. I don't know how the fuck we got here. The Moxley stuff, if it was in the middle of the card and you had the
it doesn't even deserve that spot, but keep going.
Well, no, me and you had the same idea of MDB bringing up a term that hasn't been used in a while, but this fits perfectly her pop-up booking.
Yeah.
And even when Moxley has a mic, and I'm not trying to be, a Debbie Downer here, but even when Moxley has a mic, he's not saying anything and it doesn't make sense. Like, it's just, I always say he speaks in parables because it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. it's going right back to what we just joked about. Like, we can't understand you, dog. Hibbity hoo ha. Like, we don't know what you're saying.
Whoa. Yeah. It's, I don't want to say this, but I kind of want to say this. It's like what you got a little bit at times with Bray, of when he was kind of lost for a bit there, to where you were gotten. It was just saying stuff that sounded intriguing and was a combination of like buzzwords that didn't really amount to fuck and all.
No.
But the thing about the difference between Bray and John Moxley, and you said it, we knew Bray was lost. We don't know what Moxley is.
Yeah, well, he's lost too. He's lost the whole way.
I think it was like clear that we knew Bray was trying to find himself again.
Yeah.
But Mox is just out here saying stuff.
This is Fight Club and just Brad Pitt's narrating this movie instead of Edward Norton.
Now, I mean, again, the match is a Brisbane
Brisbane bar.
So another name for every city they go to, they just give us a brawl or whatever. Again, Moxley's gonna bleed. Edge might break a leg. Knock on wood, he doesn't. But this is gonna be a chaotic match, which is ultimately setting up Cope versus Moxley at Revolution, which will lead to Christian being champion out of left fucking field.
Well, yeah, because Cope's gonna be the one that clearly would have won it, and then Christian cashed in. Now, am I wrong? And I thought this was initially going to be Mox versus Jay White for the title. That was the match, and then now it's evolved into this tag match that again proves John Moxley can actually wrestle inside a wrestling ring, because we have to have a stipulation, a street fight, and no DQ for every Moxley match. But yeah, this feels a little weird if we're going to have this and we already know the title match is set up right after this. Like, this feels the most collision-y match to have.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's definitely giving collision.
Sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying it's definitely given like a collision match.
Yeah. Robert, I know, Robert, you're a big AEW fan and a TNA fan, and we appreciate your 2 cents. The only thing with comments like this one is stop repeating. We just talked about the Callis family and Ospreay. We've been seeing that for months and months and months. We're getting a brawl on this show. We got a brawl on the last show. We got a brawl last Saturday. No DQ, no rules, no someone else's catchphrase is lazy booking, and it all covers it. So again, before we want to paint one company, we got to look at the big picture, because yes, the WWE does repeat matches. It's called a rivalry. But at the same time, they're not the only ones doing it.
Well, that's to me, that's the biggest excuse that every fan base, if you're tribalistic towards one side, that's the excuse, the out you have is, but so and so. Cool, but that doesn't address the issue that's going on within the company. Now you're just comparing yourself to so-and-so's issue. That doesn't mean focus on what you're doing. Focus on what the issue is at hand here. Because like we've all said, we were excited for every other match on this show except for this. This has been the most collision match here. We were trying to say, oh, it's a special. It was supposed to be a pay-per-view, but it wasn't. This feels like it. All you're missing is swap the color palette and play me some Elton John, and it's collision.
I think in retrospect, every company repeats matches, right? But you have to continue to make it interesting. And that's kind of how it fell flat with, if we want to call out storylines, that's kind of how it fell flat with Liv and Rhea. They had a series of matches, but it just, towards the end, it just kind of got tiring and it wasn't interesting anymore. The stories weren't interesting. But if you want to compare it to something else, you can compare it to the Bloodline, which at times has had its lull moments, but then they figure out a way to kind of bring it back home and get you excited for the Bloodline stuff. So in AEW, I'm fine with having, repeat matches, but you got to make the matches and the story more interesting each time you go back to repeating it. TNA does the same thing. There's sometimes when they have matches that repeat and it's not, the story is not behind it, but there's other times where they have repeat matches and they're interesting because they make it interesting as they continue the story.
Yeah, and there's got to be a progression. I think sometimes in AEW it starts with like the stipulation and works its way down to a regular match, and we're like, wait, what? Less street fights, less brawls. You work up to them, you build up to them. You have a couple regular matches. Nothing can be, kind of worked on. So we're gonna up the ante. I'm good with that. 65% of the chat is taking the Great White Cope. So that's definitely a thing. But yeah, I mean, just like last night on Dynamite, the worst part of the show was the main event slot. And it was because of Jon Moxley and the nonsense that existed. That was a really good show last night in a lot of ways. There's always some weird stuff, but as an entertainment value, the show was solid. I enjoyed it. I gave it a good mark. If you didn't have Moxley on the show running around like an idiot and Jericho doing what he did, the show is almost perfect. Like you're just
I think I even gave Dynamite an 8 last night because I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I think Harley Cameron took it over the top with her CEO song, but Dynamite was really solid last night.
It's better rapper, Dwayne or Harley Cameron? Sorry,
Harley Cameron.
Got a weed, but who's the bigger anchor right now on AEW? Chris Jericho or Jon Moxley?
Jon Moxley.
Fair enough.
Everyone froze. Like, wait, did he just
say? No, I asked the question and you answered, and then I was waiting for the next answer. I don't really. I asked the question.
I don't have an answer because I think they're both they're not interesting. So I guess you can say Jon Moxley because he's kind of in the main event scene, trying to be relevant. But yeah.
That's my issue. Is at least Jericho's fucking down. Like he's lower in the card. Moxley's your main. Moxley is the face of your company right now.
Yeah, but I can cut the head off a dragon. I can't fucking take out the core of a tree.
Huh?
That's the thing. Well, no, because to me, if you've got Jericho that's down there, he's fucking up everyone that's coming up.
Yeah,
you all get sucked into the Jericho vortex. Brian Keith, Big Bill, in Action Andretti, etc., that have all gotten sucked into the Jericho vortex. No, Moxley's not fatal. Moxley, you cut it off and you move along. Jericho, I think he's so delusional. He's out there doing interviews with Chris Van Fleet he's rotten to the core versus Moxley's just a dragon you cut the head off.
It's the positioning for me. If Jericho, that's my only concern is like if you again the guy the face of the company right now is a maniac who has your belt in a suitcase and is just rambling gibberish. Like
which you can hold the suitcase hostage, by the way, and if you smack it with a spiked 2x4, that's like beating Jon Moxley's child.
Yeah, fucking losing his mind. But I like Jose's
your hero suitcase.
Jericho annoys me. Jericho makes my skin crawl. Jericho is a mess and is delusional. All of that is true. But Moxley will kill you because he's so prominent to what your brand is supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's it. But I know we just kind of went on a little side tangent, folks, but Grand Slam, like Anthony said, stacked card, lots of intrigue. I think all three of us agree on that. Vengeance Day is going to be fun. We're going to be here live at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday with a lot going on, a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Any final thoughts on either one of these shows, my friends?
Vengeance Day, I'm excited for, especially now with the likes of Ricky Starks, etc., showing up, and especially the tease with the kind of outside, faction or tangent, what have you. I'm excited for Vengeance Day. Grand Slam, I wish they figured out when it was going to air, when they booked it, because I feel like I would be just as excited if I knew if it like all of the bullshit going into it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Vengeance Day, and this just dropped in my head. Vengeance Day just got more interesting because I realized next Thursday TNA is live. So Vengeance Day could start up something that could lead to TNA Impact next week. So I'm excited for Vengeance Day because of that. And then Grand Slam, I am actually really excited to see that tag team match with Ospreay and Omega. And I'm gonna go in with high hopes, hoping that Harley Cameron wins, even though I chose Mercedes Moné.
Hope, all the hopium that we can get our hands on, folks. But that is our predictions. That is our preview for the two shows this weekend. We are back at it tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. for SmackDown. 3+ hours of SmackDown live. And then, like I said, 5:30 p.m. Yes, grab your dinner, grab your grub, and come join the boys of the Wrestling for Life Network as we jump into Vengeance Day. And we'll see how the rest of the night goes. But we know when we're starting. We don't know when we're stopping, folks. And then we got so much more coming your way. Like, share, subscribe. Check out all the links. Check out all the stuff. We're everywhere. That's it. Should be a fun weekend, boys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our shit is real. Our shit is raw. Our shit is all authentic. When you talk about the rest, you put it with the full live with it.
Come back tomorrow. See you on the flip side. Good night. Go Harley.